Hello everyone, today we will have two interesting stories. Before we get to that, I want to ask you to subscribe, like, and be sure to write comments in order to participate in the development of the community. Write how to improve my community, current topics and the stories you are interested in, and much more. I read and listen to all the comments. People write me stories by mail from different countries. There are problems with translation. I apologize for this. I will work on it and try to fix these errors. I want to thank everyone for their support and the people who wrote to me by mail, broadcast news stories. New videos on my channel are published every 2 days at 7 p.m. Don't forget to put a bell in order not to miss new videos. And now let's go. Hello, I want to tell you my story. My story began with a night together in the car. This happened in April 2012. After that, we spent 8 more nights together, and at the beginning of June, she says that her Red Women's Day did not begin. After that, she does an express pregnancy test. As a result, she is pregnant and says that the baby is mine. I married her as a decent gentleman. She was my common-law wife, and then we'll see, I thought. During her pregnancy, she worked until she finally went on maternity leave. She had such a work schedule for a week at home, then a week at work. The whole time my wife was pregnant, she had sex with another man. The fact that she was pregnant did not bother her. But all this came up a little later at the end of our relationship. Like a real man, I worked overtime and saved money for her delivery and the baby. In general, a family ideal. Besides me, my wife had sex with someone else. She introduced me to her family, but she lived in my house. She lived in ideal conditions. I had my own 3-room apartment. In March 2013, my wife went into labor, and she gave birth to a perfectly healthy boy. A week later, my wife was discharged from the hospital. At that time, I bought everything necessary for the baby, a crib, a stroller, and so on. We lived like this. I was constantly at work, and my wife was at home and looked after the child. One day, she woke me up at night and said if I could see my ex-boyfriend, he returned from the army 3 days ago. Naturally, I was very angry at such insolence. I went outside to this guy to deal with him and sent my wife to her mother with the child. But a month later, my wife apologized and wanted to come back to my house. Naturally, I felt sorry for her and allowed her to return. As a result, we reconciled and had wonderful sex. I melted like sugar. But I felt sorry for the child. He couldn't grow up without a father. In general, we began to live together again, soul to soul. But I was left with an unpleasant aftertaste and I stopped trusting my wife. I began to watch her carefully after a while, like a bolt from the blue. I logged into her social media account. I saw something that I'm ashamed to tell you about. I will briefly describe what I saw. She wrote that she did not love me, request to help her, passionate infidelities, and so on. To be honest, we've been fighting a lot lately and my wife has been picking on me for nothing. I had a very hot temper, but honestly, I never hit her. I loved her very much. As a result, I her out of the house, out of resentment, and gave her all the children's things. After that, she blackmailed me that she would not let me see the child. She said she would change the child's last name because I didn't register them in my house. By the way, there were a lot of quarrels between us because of this. I said that I would do a DNA test after which we would officially get married and give the child my last name and I'll register it in my apartment. I decided to do an anonymous DNA test. After I did the DNA test, I was stunned because the paternity is 0. She insisted on repeating the official DNA test in her presence. I agreed, but the result was the same. Wow, I felt sorry for her and took her in, and she cheated on me in marriage. Yes, the marriage was civil, but it is no different from the legal one. Am I wrong? I didn't cheat on her. I give you my word as a man. Her whole family knew that I was not the father, and at the same time they were silent. But after a while, they confessed everything to me. But it just didn't make sense anymore. My 3 years of life are lost. Plus, the child was a stranger. The child was not mine, and there was no point in continuing this relationship. I couldn't raise someone else's child. At least for me, this is unacceptable. It was my first child, so it really hurt me mentally. There was an emptiness in my soul, but I have the strength. I am only 33 years old. I am sure that I will find a new girl and she will give birth to my child. With this, the first story has come to an end and we proceed to the second story. Let's go! My name is Michael. I'm 29 years old and my wife is 30 years old. We have lived together for 8 years and have 2 children. We bought an apartment and a car on credit. There isn't always enough money for everything we wanted, but we didn't live poorly. One day I log into my wife's social media. I saw a lot of likes on her photos. They were men and it made me very angry. After that, I made a scandal and asked her to stop communicating with them. It seems that my wife agreed with me, but one fine morning she received a text message, "Call me back." I immediately yelled at her and she wrote back, "Don't write to me anymore," but I realized that something was wrong here and started digging deeper. When I did the detailing, I saw that she had been texting with this man for 2 months. My wife initially denied everything, but then confessed she corresponded with a man who met her at work. He found her on social media using information from her badge. I was confused that the first call from this man came at 1 o'clock in the morning when I was already asleep. I argued with my wife for a long time and tried to hear the truth, but she lied to me without much hesitation. Anyway, later I found out that she was driving with him in the car and stopped in places where there are no people for an indefinite time. She always came home in time, so I didn't suspect anything. Plus, I had a lot of work and I had to work late. She told me that he was courting and showing signs of attention, and she liked it. They had 10 meetings, according to my wife. Even then, I began to consider her traitor and tried to find out if they had sex or not. A little later, I discovered the message history on the dating site of my wife and this guy. There were words she didn't even call me. The initiator of their meetings was originally my wife. According to her, they were joking about the guys on the dating site, but after a while, she liked him. As a result, they had an affair. She said she was sorry about what happened and wanted to make amends. To me, she begged for forgiveness and said that she would become whatever I wanted. She explained all her actions by saying that her job was new. She worked in this company for 4 months and the staff did not like her very much. Therefore, no one talked to her, but she wanted to communicate. She didn't get much attention from me. We were like colleagues in the upbringing of our children. I do not dispute that our relationship slowly faded in the first 7 years because we lived with 2 children with our mother-in-law. We ever slept in separate beds because our baby always wanted to sleep with his mom. But when we bought our apartment and moved into it, everything started to get better. We've always wanted to live separately, and now our dream has come true. But less than 6 months have passed since this situation occurred. She also told me that when she met, it was like she stepped into her youth. In general, I began to interrogate my wife whether there was sex between them or not. By the way, her lover is also married and has a child. On the phone, he claimed that there was nothing between them except communication. He said he would stop texting my wife and wished me to pay more attention to her. I even contacted a fortune teller who told me that there was nothing between my wife and this guy. But one day, my wife tearfully confessed to me that she had had sex with him, that they only had sex once. But I believed her about that because I saw her phone's movement history on the map. She said she didn't know what came over her. Maybe it was hypnosis and so on. She said that during sex she pushed him away. All these actions took place in the backseat of the car. So the actions were deliberate because it was necessary to move to the back seats. On the way back, he told her that she didn't know what she wanted. Then they had a fight. But in the beginning, she swore by our children that they didn't have sex. That was the last straw. After that, I couldn't trust her anymore. I don't believe her anymore, even though I love her very much. I just can't imagine life without my children. But I filed for divorce anyway. I didn't want to look like a rag in her eyes. I signed up with a family psychologist and turned to a good lawyer. As a result, we got divorced. I see my children on weekends. My wife is still begging me to come back. But I'm relentless. Friends, be men and not rags. If you like the story, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so as not to miss new videos. Now let's move on to the opinion of the author of the channel. The opinion of the author of the channel. According to tradition, I want to wish strength and patience to our heroes. After listening to 2 stories, I was angry because I don't like people who swear by the health of their children. Why do this? It's not even that they're lying. It's just not worth swearing by the health of your loved ones, especially children's health. In the second story, a man went to a fortune teller. I don't believe in this nonsense, but this is solely my opinion. Friends, do you think fortune tellers can tell us something? Write your comment. In the first story, the man said that he was not ready to raise other people's children. Yes, I agree, everyone has their own opinion. But it's actually not that terrible. In your situation, of course, it's not worth it because your wife cheated on you, initially. But many people raise other people's children, and this is quite normal. If you have watched to the end, I want to say thank you very much. I love you all. Thank you for joining me on this exciting journey of love, betrayal, and redemption. I appreciate your support and encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this story. Your participation and feedback are invaluable for shaping our content and promoting mutual understanding and community growth. Until we meet again.